Hey film fans, Craig here, and you're watching Craig's Film Reviews. This week we're going to be talking about the new movie Justice League. So, Justice League was nominally directed by Zack Snyder, that's the official credits for director on this film. But as anyone who's been kind of with a passing knowledge of what's been going on with the film knows that Zack Snyder isn't really the director of this film. He was replaced near the end of filming by Joss Whedon, the director of Avengers and the creator of TV shows like Buffy and Angel and Firefly. And due to a personal tragedy, sadly, his daughter committed suicide earlier in the year, and understandably, him and his wife, who was also the producer, Deborah Snyder, they both pulled out of the project, and Joss Whedon was brought in to work on finishing the film in post-production, and it turns out was responsible for what it seems to be some fairly extensive reshoots. One producer was quoted as in an interview saying as much as 15 to 20% of the film, so a fair chunk of the movie was reshot by Joss Whedon. Now the reshoots happened fairly late in production. Word on the street was that the film didn't really get in the can until August this year, so that doesn't leave a lot of time for them to finish up special effects and post-production and sound mixing for the release this month in November, and the scenes show on the screen. The film's a mess, but I didn't hate it. It wasn't Suicide Squad, another film made by Warner Brothers for part of the DC universe, that they're the rival to the Marvel universe that they're trying to create. Suicide Squad was a total mess, and it was totally unenjoyable. It was just a dour, absolutely couldn't follow the plot. It was a mess. And Justice League, there's some major flaws in it, major problems, but all in all, I found it quite a fun and entertaining movie despite of itself. So Justice League follows on from Batman vs Superman, Man of Steel, and it kind of does incorporate some of the ideas from Suicide Squad. Some of the characters from Suicide Squad are in it, and the idea is meant to be the Avengers style for the DC universe. So Justice League features Batman, Wonder Woman, Cyborg, and the Flash, and Aquaman. Sorry, they all form together to form the Justice League to stop the alien Steppenwolf, who's arrived to Earth to take over, as aliens in these movies usually do. So obviously, like we said, it was originally started by Zack Snyder, the production, who directed Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman. Now, both those movies were reasonable box office success, but it's fair to say they received mixed reviews, especially Batman vs Superman. The reviews tended to be more on the negative side. So his approach to movie making, Zack Snyder's an interesting guy. He's started off doing films like Dawn of the Dead, 300 was his big hit, Watchmen, and Sucker Punch, which was an interesting film, written and directed completely by Zack Snyder. That one, he's very famous for being primarily interested in the visual. He started off as a photographer and fine arts background, and moved into commercials and music videos. So he's primarily a visual filmmaker. His films are very technically excellent. He's one of the best directors of action around. He really understands geography and composition of image in action films. His films are usually pretty nice to look at and have good special effects, but he's got a very dark tone to his films. As a man outside of movies, he's politically, he kind of leans towards the right. He's obsessed with Ayn Rand, and his dream is, and apparently his next project will be a film version of The Fountainhead, and which is the crystallization, almost Ayn Rand's manifestation of her objectivism ideals. So he really buys into that kind of philosophy of the individual versus collectivism, that one man stands alone and everything should be totally libertarian and freedom, and any kind of collectivism, any kind of people working together is to be looked down upon. And also he's quite cynical in terms of views of like heroism. He kind of all of his films, even 300 and Watchmen, especially Watchmen, but though that was in the original story of Watchmen as well, from the original comic book, was that heroes can't be trusted. People shouldn't do things for other people. I think is kind of his message. A lot of his films it's quite a dark message, and I don't know if one that's appropriate for the DC universe. And as Batman vs Superman and Man of Steel showed, it almost seems like he doesn't really like these characters. That Superman, his version of Superman, is a dark, brooding version of Superman. He scowls a lot. He seems very reluctant to help people, which is almost the opposite of what we think of as a character. And the version of Batman in Batman vs Superman, played by Ben Affleck, he's almost like this deranged, violent vigilante, which, if you look at the character of Batman, yes, he could. It's quite interesting to play him like that, because that's one way you could do him, that he's a rich guy, a rich white guy that dresses up as a bat and goes out and beats up criminals. Which could be, there's something wrong there, there's something a bit odd about that kind of scenario, so yeah, that's a valid way to look at it, but stick them both together in a movie, and Batman vs Superman just had a series of, it was almost horror movie level, like darkness to the film. There were some images in there that were from a horror movie, in my mind. Superman hit by a nuclear weapon, as almost like cadaverous, like he was like a zombie. It was quite an unpleasant image. Again, although that was taken from Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns, which was the basis of Batman vs Superman. The one image that really stuck with me that I found quite upsetting was the image of the scene where Lex Luthor gives Superman the photos of his mother, tied up and beaten, almost like something, looks like something from Seven. And Batman rages and his eyes burn red as if he's about to kill Lex Luthor, and I just found it, it's not, I don't think it's quite appropriate for Superman. It was quite a dark, relentless movie, that Batman vs Superman, and that's his vision of the character, Zack Snyder, and I think that's what he wanted to carry on with Justice League, and early footage and early kind of interviews kind of hinted that he was going to carry on that vibe. But due to the mixed reactions and less than stellar box office of those first two movies, I think Warner Brothers panicked, and the rumours are that Zack Snyder was kind of told to lighten the tone, and there was conscious efforts from the producers to kind of interfere with the filmmaking, to try to give a lighter tone to the movie, slightly kind of course correct the series into a bit more of a Marvel style fun family adventure genre. And they tried it with Suicide Squad, although Suicide Squad had actually already been made, and they basically tried to do that by re-editing the movie into like this bizarre tonal mess, by laying over weird pop songs over the top of it, just to kind of give this false upbeat sense of it, about a film about a Dirty Dozen style psychopathic villains as the main characters. So I don't see how you can kind of, the ideas don't really mesh together. They were looking to try and obviously recreate that Guardians of the Galaxy vibe, and obviously they took the wrong lessons, obviously, like often these things happen this way, where they watch James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy movies and thought, oh yeah, you know what it is, we'll just stick in pop songs over the top like they do in that movie, and stick in some like random crazy characters, and then it'll be exactly the same as Guardians of the Galaxy. But it doesn't work that way. You've got to put in the hard work. They've got to put in the miles to earn the audience's appreciation. So Wonder Woman was a complete success in every sense of the word, a financial success, a critical smash. It's a great film. Wonder Woman's an absolute great film, and it's the kind of film you think DC should be making. It was a Superman movie that Man of Steel should have been. And Gal Gadot, she's a star. There's no way about it. She's going to be a huge star, if she's not one already. And so the sense of it was that Justice League needed to carry on from the success of Wonder Woman, and that kind of upbeat tone. And I think that's one of the reasons why Joss Whedon came into the production, and they wanted to kind of ape Avengers. So who better to get than the guy who directed Avengers? Unfortunately, he wasn't given enough time to do it, and he's always kind of playing catch up, because he's going to have to work with the footage that's already been filmed by Zack Snyder and the tone that he's already set out. So unsurprisingly, the film is a mishmash of these styles. It does feel like a collision between Zack Snyder's very dark, almost anti-humanist, totally kind of visual his kind of visual style, and that clashes with Joss Whedon's more kind of jockey, sly kind of humour that he loves to bring to his films like Avengers, and it doesn't quite mesh together. I mean, for a blockbuster movie, big budget, I mean, the rumours are that it's one of the most expensive movies ever made. $300 million has been mooted around the internet, which you can understand. They've done multiple reshoots. That stuff costs money. They had to bring all the actors back. Famously, Henry Cavill was moved on to do Mission Impossible 6, where he's grown a moustache, a big 70s porno moustache. He was denied the permission to shave it off because they don't want him to have to regrow it for Mission Impossible 6. So they've done some sort of kind of clumsy CGI lip for him in this movie, and you can kind of see it's kind of obvious. And the film is full of bad composites, bad special effects, scenes that don't quite match with each other, and shots where the eye line doesn't quite match, again like Suicide Squad. The plot is murky and kind of flips between one scene to the other. There's a bit of a haphazard pacing, but in all, the strange thing about it is it kind of wins you over. It kind of works. The tone is much better than what I think the tone would have originally have been. The tone of Batman vs Superman and Man of Steel. That tone's gone. That dark, relentless, bludgeoning tone to those films is gone. And we do have kind of more of a zippy, lighter comic book movie tone. It is more closer to the Marvel movies. And the actors seem to be having a good time. The actors seem well cast. They're quite likeable. The characters they put in the Justice League are kind of quite likeable and engaging. You've got Gal Gadot continues as Wonder Woman, and she, again, has this effortless charisma, real screen presence. She's convincing the action scenes. She used to be an Israeli soldier, so she's always been convincing action scenes, but she's proved herself to be a great actress as well. And she's, again, very appealing in this film. Ben Affleck's settled into the role a little bit in Batman vs Superman, where he played this very kind of tormented Batman figure, the most tormented out of any of even the Christian Bale ones. Batman films played him like at least a hero. In that one, he was almost like the villain. He was kind of meant to be almost half deranged with this like vendetta against Superman, and I don't know if Ben Affleck ever felt comfortable in that kind of character. He never really comes across very well in that kind of those dark roles. So this kind of aligns more to what he's more comfortable with. He's a bit more like the father figure of the group. He's a bit more of more light-hearted, a bit more compassionate this time round, and a bit more human. And I think he kind of settles into the role. The rumours are that he's had enough as Batman. He can't really blame a lot of the actors for wanting out after all the debacle of like the last few productions, and the kind of confused vision for the films. They probably don't know whether they're coming or going, but he's much improved in this one. Ben Affleck seems like he's a bit more relaxed this time round, possibly under Joss Whedon's director, who's seems to be a bit more comfortable with the actors than Zack Snyder ever was. Henry Cavill finally gets to come back as Superman in the actual original, the real version of Superman for me. They're gone is the scowling, the selfish and moody character of the last couple of Superman movies, and he starts to play him like Superman. He cracks jokes, he smiles, he goes out of his way to help people and save people. This is Superman back to Superman, so we're quite looking forward to if they do a next movie with Henry Cavill in, make it Superman, make him in a Superman adventure on his own, playing the Superman character that we love in a more light-hearted, upbeat tone, which I think is what the fans want. Some of the new characters that are introduced in this one, The Flash, Ezra Miller, he's a good actor. I remember him from We Need to Talk About Kevin, he made quite an impression in that film. He's just playing The Flash. Unfortunately, he pales a bit in comparison with the TV version of Flash, which is very popular right now, and they're basically giving him the same kind of backstory. He's playing the same character, so it's kind of unavoidable. But he's kind of like the Spider-Man of the group, like Spider-Man was in Captain America Civil War. So he's kind of like the one that feels kind of out of place, that he's a bit younger than all the others and not quite sure of his place in the Justice League and what he can actually bring to the group, and his self-doubt and youth brings a kind of that kind of same kind of level of humour that Spider-Man did in Civil War. Ray Fisher, I've not really seen him in much before, but he makes an impression as Cyborg. He's got a really great, powerful voice. He's got a really nice voice, and his character plays Cyborg's like a half human, half supercomputer, and he's kind of almost like the techie guy of the group, the scientist guy of the group. So they find use for him in that he's useful into the plot, and but also they give him this kind of thing that he feels like he's a bit of a freak and a monster. So he's got a bit of meat to chew on, and I think he comes across quite well. He's not as funny as some of the other characters, but he's a bit more of the heart and soul of the group. I found him quite likeable. And Jason Momoa, who most people will recognise from Game of Thrones, he plays Aquaman, and he's kind of a bit more of a more heroic version of his Khal Drogo from Game of Thrones. So he's a big, beefy, exotic kind of figure who, the way Momoa plays is almost like a jock, like a big football player. Like he cracks a few jokes, acts hyper masculine, and he makes a bit of impression as well. So he's kind of some of the best lines of the movie. I don't really see they don't really make much use of his powers. He's not really underwater off. He's just another strong guy. So that kind of is a bit of a wasted opportunity. But there's a funny joke where Ben Affleck actually, as Batman, actually asks him, "Can you speak to fish? Is that just a joke or is that a rumour?" And that's quite a funny sequence. But there's many sequences like that in the film, and it is it's a very funny movie. I think there's some quite nice jokes in it. It moves along at such a clip. It's only 2 hours long, which is the shortest of all the DC movies and shorter than most other superhero movies out these days. So it moves along at a fair old clip. It doesn't give you much time to kind of look for the flaws. It keeps going. You're never bored. There's a couple of decent action scenes in there, like the scenes with the Amazonians taking on Steppenwolf is quite a nice action scene, although some of the special effects a bit iffy. Overall, I think it's a strange one, because as a film critic, you're watching a movie and you can see the flaws. You can see that the plot is just a staple of many different scripts stuck together, it seems like. The plot doesn't move with any kind of narrative flow. There's not really many character arcs in the movie. The tones are just mismatched and they don't really match together. The shots and the effects and just almost amateur hour in some scenes. So you look at it at that point of view and you have to criticise that and say that it's not a deeply, deeply flawed movie. But its heart's kind of in the right place. There's a sense that they're trying to ape this Marvel's universe. I don't always think that's a great thing. I'm not 100% sold on Marvel. I do like the Marvel movies, but I think there's a lot of them that are kind of forgettable, so I don't think that's always the only way you can make a superhero movie. But I think their heart's in the right place because they're trying to finally get to the root of these characters. One of the reasons why Wonder Woman works so well compared to Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman is because Patty Jenkins and the writers understood Wonder Woman and the aspects of Wonder Woman, the same as what Marvel do. They understand their characters. Batman should not be played completely deranged and as almost like the villain. Superman is not a reluctant hero, a tormented hero like Batman. He's Superman. He's an upbeat, heroic character, and that's the way he should be played. And finally, it seems like they've kind of cottoned on to the idea of, hey, maybe we should just do the real version of these characters, the characters that fans for decades have loved. And watching it on the screen, I enjoyed it. I liked seeing Superman and Batman back to the characters that I thought they were. And although it's taken them a long way around to get there, and there's been a lot of missteps along the way, and even in this Justice League, there's a lot of flaws and problems, by kind of almost like accident, they've got to where they need to be. And I actually quite enjoyed it and found it quite a fun, entertaining movie. I wouldn't mind seeing it again. It's quite a watchable movie for all its problems and flaws. So, yeah, I'll hope that they probably knock this idea on the head of trying to be Marvel light now and not have all this universe, this interconnected cinematic universe, and maybe just start concentrating on making just individual standalone solo movies with getting the characters right. like they did with Wonder Woman. I look forward to a new film with Henry Cavill as Superman, playing the Superman we all know and love. I'd be quite happy to watch Ezra Miller and Ray Fisher do their Flashpoint movie, what they were supposed to be doing, with Cyborg and the Flash teaming up. They had quite a good buddy relationship in this one, so maybe that would work. And again, Wonder Woman 2. Who knows what they'll do with Batman? There's rumours that with Affleck probably on his way out, they'll have to recast and restart again. But hopefully they'll carry on doing what they've done and stick to the character of Batman that we all know and love. So overall, Justice League, there's no doubt it's a mess. It's a deeply flawed movie, but somehow it wins you over. It's got some nice performances, fun performances. It actually look like they're having a lot of fun. There's a better tone this time around, a more light-hearted, upbeat tone, and it moves quickly and with enough action that it leaves you entertained and satisfied. So that's been my review of Justice League. Hope you've all enjoyed it. If you had any comments about it, any other different opinions about the film, if you'd like to stick them in the comment section below. If you like the video, hit like. If you want to hear more of my film reviews, press the subscribe button. I'm also doing my podcast with my colleagues Bruce and Harry on Screaming Into the Void, so we should have some more of those up soon, so keep an eye out for those. Thanks very much for watching, guys.